When you're in the market for a job, it might seem that just getting an interview is half the battle. The truth is, making that appointment is just the beginning. Take it from the experts. Going into a job interview, you can greatly increase your odds of success by knowing the common mistakes people make in interviews and how to overcome them. When talking to a prospective employer, you have to know exactly what to do and, just as importantly, what not to do. In a moment, we'll get a professional career consultant's insight into the art of job interviewing. But first, let's look at what you should do to get ready for an appointment. One of the biggest mistakes anybody can make is to be unprepared for an interview. Remember, knowledge is power. The best way to get ready for a job interview is through in-depth research into the prospective employer. Having an arsenal of information gives you a big edge over the competition when the interviewer asks, "So, what do you know about our company?" Research also provides insight into how your skills will fit into the company as a whole. Plus, you can ask intelligent questions that demonstrate your understanding of the big picture. There are many sources for this kind of knowledge. Company websites can offer a wealth of information, including news and press releases that give you an up-to-date picture of what's going on. Be sure to look for financial information such as an annual report and, of course, job listings. There are also many online resources where you can find unbiased information about a specific company, including the size of the company, how it's structured, and the state of its financial health. Offline resources include local newspapers, which are often the only place you'll find information on small local companies, and the library, where you'll find journals, almanacs, and research guides with information on the company and its marketplace. Once you've done your homework, it's time to focus on the interview. Begin by asking yourself, what am I looking for when I go on a job interview? Is it to find work with a good company? To land a challenging job with a handsome salary and good benefits? Let's get an expert's point of view.
I'm Andrea Kay. I'm a career consultant. When I ask people like you who are getting ready to go out on job interviews what they're looking for, that's usually what they tell me. They want a challenging job that will pay well, and most of them don't find it. If you want to find a good professional job, if you want to start your career with a successful company, you better know more about what companies want from you than what you want from them. Before you even walk through the front door of a company for an interview, you better know what business is all about and how to stay cool under pressure. You better know how you feel about working with people of a different race or gender. If you don't, you could be making the kinds of mistakes that tell interviewers you're not right for the job. Now, I don't mean to scare you. I don't want to portray the job interview as one-sided, full of sneaky, low-down questions that are intended to trick you. But I do mean to put you on guard for questions and situations that are meant to get you off guard. A job interview will probably take more preparation than you planned, for it's a serious conversation about business, about how people treat each other, about how you react to stress, and about what kind of person you really are. It's a conversation where the spotlight can be on you, where everything you say, every attitude you convey can work for you or against you. One mistake can blow the interview and the chance at your dream job. This video is about common mistakes people make in interviews, mistakes that are very easy to make. This video will help you anticipate what interviewers are looking for, how they'll decide if you've got it. You'll learn what questions to be ready for, and in your own words, how to answer them. You'll learn how to impress interviewers with your ability to think on your feet and communicate with clarity and maturity, which, by the way, are two of the main qualities they're looking for. You'll learn the most common mistakes to watch out for, and by the end, you'll know how not to make them. Knowing all this will encourage employers to say those three magic words, "We want you." Brian is having his first job interview. Let's find out what's going through his mind.
I'm afraid I'll say the wrong things. I wonder if I'll have the right answers. I don't know what they're going to throw at me or how they'll try to trick me. I hope they'll want to hire me.
This is the first mistake most people make when they go into an interview. They go in thinking, I have to impress you. I have to give all the right answers. I have to have this job. You don't have to have this job. You may not even want this job once you talk to the manager and learn more about the company. So take the pressure off yourself, relax, and change your objective. Look at the interview like this. The objective of this interview is to have a discussion. What do you want to discuss? Well, on your end, you want to discuss information that'll help you decide if you want to work there. Later, we'll talk about the appropriate questions to ask, which will help you determine that. The employer, on the other hand, has a different agenda. Let's find out what that is.
I've never met Brian before, so I need to determine if he can do the job. If he has the necessary skills this position calls for, such as writing, desktop publishing, and editing. I want to know if he's reliable, if he'll make it to work every day on time, if he'll make a commitment to our company, because we'll be putting time and money into training him. I want to know if he can make our company more profitable and more efficient, if he'll get along with others, including me. If he has leadership qualities, I wonder if he'll fit into our organization. I need to know that he'll be honest, trustworthy, and enthusiastic about coming to work every day.
So the employer wants to discuss information that will help her decide if she wants to hire Brian. Unless you don't care where you work, your objective is not to just get the job by saying all the right things, but it's to get information to help you decide if you want the job. The employer's goal is to get information to help her decide if you're right for the company. So the first thing you need to do is see the interview as a mutual exploration between two people as to whether this is a good match. Doing this will also help you relax, be yourself, and be more effective. To start this exploration, the employer will ask you questions. Now, here's where people go wrong. Many people think interviewers ask questions just to trick them or be sneaky. I suppose some interviewers might do that, but not in most cases. And to be as effective as you can, you need to understand what employers are really doing when they ask these questions. I said that interviewers are looking for information to help them decide if they want to hire you. That information covers 3 areas. The right skills. In other words, can you do the job? The right attitude. Are you willing to do what it takes to be successful? The right fit. Do you fit into the organization? So basically, employers are looking for answers to these questions. They're not trying to trick you. Let's look at these one at a time. Remember that Ms. Jones said,
I need to determine if he can do the job, if he has the necessary skills this position calls for, such as writing, desktop publishing, and editing.
So she's looking for the right skills and ability. To find this out, employers will ask you questions such as, what makes you think you can do this job? What kind of work do you want to do? Have you ever done this work before? You need to let the interviewer know that you have the skills necessary for this job, and if not, that you're a quick learner, or that the skills you applied in your experience are transferable. A common mistake people make is that they don't think through the skills and strengths they have. One of the main reasons someone would hire you. Then they're not prepared to tell the interviewer, here's why I can do the job, or here's why you should hire me. The interviewer is concerned about whether you can do the job. That's why they're asking the question. So be prepared to tell them what you can do. If you don't know what your skills are, try this exercise. Sit down and write what you know a lot about, what you enjoy doing most, what you are doing when you forget about time, and if you just graduated, what classes you have the best grades in. You can also ask your counselor at school to arrange for a test to help you identify your skills and abilities if you're not sure. So make sure you are clear on exactly what you can do for a company by knowing your skills.
What kind of job are you looking for, Brian?
Well, I'd like to work in a place where I'm challenged and have a secure, interesting job. Now, I know that starting out, I may not make a lot of money, but eventually, I'd like to make a good salary. I've been in college now for 4 years, and I'd like to be able to buy a new car and think about my future.
What did you think of his answer? Did it tell you anything about his skills and abilities? At this point, the interviewer is probably thinking of how she can cut this interview short. Let's try it again.
What kind of job are you looking for, Brian?
Well, I'm looking for a position where I can contribute my strengths as a writer, apply my thorough understanding of desktop publishing, my ability to take information and put it into an organized format, my strengths to work well with diverse groups of people, and apply my creative problem-solving abilities.
Good answer. But Brian couldn't have given that kind of answer if he hadn't done some research about the position, if there is a known vacancy, or had some idea of what the company might be looking for. The important thing to remember here is that Brian sat down and figured out what his skills were. The mistake some people make is they demonstrate the wrong attitude. Interviewers will ask a host of questions to find out your attitudes and whether you have personal characteristics they've determined you need to be successful. These questions range from, tell me about yourself. Why do you want to work here? What are your goals? How can you help our company? Your answers need to demonstrate your willingness to help the company be better and achieve its goals. Show them you're a problem solver.
So, Brian, why do you want to work here?
Well, I heard you're a good company. I had a cousin who worked here, and I hear you treat people pretty well and you offer good benefits. Now, I know I have to work my way up, but I'd like to get promoted and be with a good company.
Brian is displaying a "what can you do for me" attitude. His attitude suggests to the interviewer that he only cares about benefits and promotions, which translates to more money. You went instead to demonstrate a "what can I do for you" attitude.
So, Brian, why do you want to work here?
In the research that I've done on your company, I'm impressed with your growth. I understand that you've gone from the 8th largest to the 3rd largest publisher of textbooks just in the last 3 years. I want to work for the leader in the industry. I'm also impressed with your management philosophy that incorporates self-directed teams and encourages job routines.
What did you think of Brian's answer? Pretty good, wasn't it? The employer earlier in the interview had stated some of the qualities and experience she was looking for. Brian listened, stored that information away, and when the right time came, he used it to show her that he had what she was looking for. Interviewees tend to overlook one simple fact, that every company has problems, and they hire people to solve those problems. Companies are in business to make money. When they get things done faster and more efficiently, they make more money. An answer like the one Brian gave also tells the employer he's goal-oriented, profit-minded, interested in his career, and wants to commit to a good company. In other words, he's got the right attitude. So far, we've talked about the right skills and the right attitude, two of the areas the interviewer is looking for information on to help her decide if she wants to hire you. Consider what else Ms. Jones was thinking.
I want to know if he'll get along with others, including me. If he has leadership qualities, I need to know that he'll be honest and trustworthy. I wonder if he'll fit into our organization.
The key words here are the right fit. What does that mean? Well, it's tough to define, but basically the interviewer wants to know, do I like you? Will the people you work with like you? She will pick up clues about this by noticing everything, and I mean everything. Research shows that people make up their minds about how they feel about you in the first 7 seconds of meeting you. The mistake people make is not understanding how important it is to project a professional image. Do you stand up tall, look her in the eye, and give a firm handshake when you first meet? Do you sit up straight in the chair? This may tell someone how confident you are. How do your clothes look? Are your shoes scuffed up or just polished? Is your hair sticking up?
I see here that
Do you smile? Do you seem likable? You on time? If not, it could be interpreted that you can't keep appointments or commitments. All of these things, as small as they may seem, may tell someone how much pride you take in yourself, which may directly relate to how much pride you take in your work. The employer will also decide how she feels about you and how well you'll fit into the company by the way you answer questions. One of the biggest mistakes people make in interviews is not concentrating enough on their communication skills. By this, I mean not just on what you say, but also how you say it. The interviewer will evaluate your ability to communicate by asking broad, open-ended questions such as,
Tell me about yourself.
or something such as,
Brian, what personal characteristics will make you successful on the job?
I think enthusiasm, determination, teamwork, and self-initiative are important. An example of how I've used those skills was the time I volunteered at the senior center. See, I initiated a plan to put a lighted sign outside the center where we could announce events and activities.
they may ask questions about how you acted in your past to decide how you'll act in the future.
What didn't you like about dealing with the zoning commission?
I never thought about it in terms of like or dislike. I did learn a lot about the government and how things get done. But I just thought of it as figuring out how to bring two different viewpoints together and accomplish our task.
Another sign of a good communicator is someone who uses short sentences rather than long, drawn-out paragraphs, and the information they share is filled with specific examples. When making a point, think of a specific event or example to illustrate it. Then organize your thoughts like this. What was the situation? What did I do? What was the result? Anytime you can tell a story, it helps the listener follow you and supports and emphasizes your point. Another thing good communicators do is ask questions. But your questions want to illustrate your what can I do for you attitude. So don't ask questions about salary and benefits. Questions that are okay to ask are,
What are the responsibilities of this job? What are the expectations for this position? What kind of person are you looking for? What qualities would the ideal candidate possess? What kinds of problems would I be solving? Why is this position open? Who would I work for?
as you ask questions, you become a participant in this conversation, which remember is what an interview is. You're both sizing up each other. You're trying to decide if you want to work here, if you like them, if you'll enjoy the job, if the company is a good fit for you. Her answers to these questions will help you decide, and she's trying to decide if she wants to hire you. Many times people are nervous in an interview and don't pay as close attention as they need to. Then they end up making mistake number 8. Brian was asked, "What kinds of jobs have you had?" He wasn't paying close attention. Here was his response.
I would like to find a job where I can use my skills in desktop publishing.
The interviewer is puzzled by his response, and Brian makes a poor impression. He ends up answering a question he didn't hear or understand. Pay attention to the interviewer's question. Concentrate on the conversation. If you didn't understand or hear a question, ask for clarification. It's better to do that than look foolish. Sometimes people are very concerned about telling every detail. As a result, they give out too much information or the kind that detracts from a good impression. They end up making mistake number 9, telling negative or unsolicited information. Here's what I mean.
What didn't you like about the person you worked for during your summer internship?
He was never around to answer my questions. I had to do everything on my own. I also didn't get much training from Mr. Sands. The project I was supposed to do, it got canceled, so I had to find other things to do.
How do you feel about Brian? You might think if I hire him, he'll be a big complainer. Or you may wonder if he lacks self-initiative or is not very assertive, maybe even lazy. Even if it's true that Mr. Sands was not a very good boss, a better response would be,
Well, there's nothing in particular I didn't like about Mr. Sands. He was out of town much of the time, and because the project I was initially assigned to was canceled, and I ended up working on the P&A packaging project, I learned how important it was to ask questions. I got good experience in taking the initiative, and I learned the value of research.
it's tempting to give negative information, partly because of the way the question is posed.
What didn't you like about the person you worked for during your summer internship?
And if you're feeling comfortable by now, you may also be tempted to let your hair down and tell the interviewer just how bad it really was working for Mr. Sands. But don't do it. Be on guard. You not only don't want to give negative information, you also don't want to give unsolicited information. For example, when asked,
What did you like best about your internship?
Brian said,
Well, I liked getting a better understanding of how, after you come up with a design, it gets applied to an actual product. And I love being around creative people all day. I didn't like having to meet with the clients, though. They never knew what they wanted, and they'd say one thing, then change their minds the next time. They were impossible to please.
Ms. Jones didn't ask him what he didn't like, and his answer leaves you with a bad feeling about his experience and ability to deal with clients. He may have opened up a real can of worms. Also, be careful you don't make this mistake, giving the impression you don't care. Here's how you might do that. Many times at the end of the interview, the employer will ask, do you have any questions? Even if all your questions have been answered, don't simply say, no, I don't have any. Share that they have done a thorough job of answering all of your questions. Then say something like this.
But I'm sure I'll think of a question once I leave. Would it be all right if I call you if I do think of something else?
The other way you show your interest is the way you handle yourself in the last few minutes of the interview. As your conversation is winding down, make sure you summarize your interest in the position and set up the next step.
I'm excited about the position we've talked about and what I've learned about your company. I'd like to continue with the interview process. What's the next step?
The interviewer may not be ready or willing to set up a second interview yet, but at least you've shown your interest. Even if they say they'll call you, ask them if it's okay for you to call them if you haven't heard back by a certain date. Don't forget to write a thank you note. Most people don't write thank you notes. This is your chance to again point out your skills, your personal qualities, and interest in the position. There's one more mistake that people make which can screen you out of the interview process quicker than anything: discussing salary or benefits too soon. What you're going to be paid and how much vacation you get are points that need to be covered, but not yet. If you ask before you get the offer, you're exhibiting that what can you do for me attitude we talked about before. Once you get the offer, when you know they want you, then it's time to talk about how much you'll be compensated. Also, if you tell them how much money you want to be paid, you could give a figure that's lower than the position pays. They may think you're too cheap, that you don't see yourself as worthy of what the job pays. On the other hand, if you give a figure that's more than what the position pays, they may decide they can't afford you. It may disqualify you from the running before you've even had a chance to sell yourself. If a company really wants you, they may be willing to pay more to get you. But first, you have to get them to want you. What if they bring up the subject of salary? Say something like this.
Well, I'm interested in learning more about the position at this point. Once we decide there's a good match, then it would make more sense to talk about compensation.
So let's look again at the ways you can overcome common mistakes that could greatly affect your success when interviewing for a job. 1. Instead of believing you have to have all the right answers, look at the interview as a mutual exploration between two people to see if it's a good match. 2. Understand what the employer is looking for. 3. Think through what it is you do best and can do for the company. 4. Show them you understand what business is about, that you're a problem solver, and give examples. 5. Pay close attention to your clothing, how you handle yourself from the minute you walk in the door until the second the meeting is over. And follow up with a thank you note. 6. Ask appropriate questions, organizing your thoughts into a simple formula that helps you tell stories. Here was the situation, here's what I did, here was the result. 7. Give answers that are specific and concrete and supported by stories. 8. Ask for clarification on any questions you don't hear or understand. 9. Listen to the question and think through exactly what you need to share. Make sure you share only positive information. 10. Let the interviewer know you are interested in the job. Keep the lines of communication open and ask to set up the next step. 11. Instead of discussing salary and benefits, let them know you're more interested in making sure you understand the position and that this is a good match. There's no magic formula for getting a job, but these guidelines will greatly improve your chances. If you follow them, you'll be less likely to make these common mistakes in an interview. Before we go, let's see how Brian's doing.
Brian, I'm very impressed with what I've heard today. What I'd like to do is to set up a second interview with Jonathan Lowry, the assistant manager in this department. How does that sound?
Sounds as if Brian is on his way to hearing those 3 magic words. We want you.